Hi Capricorn, welcome to your mid-May 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Serena here. So I just realized this is my 5th anniversary. I want to thank everyone who has watched, shared, liked my videos, left a comment, gotten a reading from me. I really appreciate it. And the reason that this is already laid out here is because I was interrupted a couple of times. So third time's a charm, I'm sure. The heart of the matter is the Magician card, which is a card of self-empowerment. And this is something that I think Capricorns do in their sleep. I think that you're a sign that you're a cardinal sign. You're very self-directed and not somebody that tends to be very dependent on others. However, you may decide, if you're working someplace, to go where they already have a structure. Your ruler Saturn is about structures, and you tend to respect what has come before. But in this particular card, as a central theme, there may be ideas that are leading you to say, I should do something myself. Your ruler is retrograding. I think it's the 11th. Well, let's see. I'm recording this on the 10th, so it might be as early as the 11th. And this can mean that, but it's definitely in the week ahead. And this can mean that you're going to be affected by it, since this is your ruler, and so you may be thinking about these matters and how it affects you. And let's see what the past position is, because this gives a hint. So we have the Queen of Swords, and perhaps this is the boss, the head honcho. In some cases, the Queen of Swords can be a choice that you feel compelled to make based upon, other things that are going on in your life. And you have to put your feelings aside for some reason. Either you have sentimentality about something, or you are simply worried something is triggering within you a strong emotion, and you feel compelled to just use your logic instead of your emotions to decide this. So that could be, going it alone, in terms of career matters. Yes, I think that you could also talk about relationships and stuff, but with the Magician, I'm specifically interested in the ideas around self-sufficiency when it comes to creating your own magic in life. And I think more of the career sector, maybe having your own business, doing something that you're not relying on someone else for, even your materials, even the things, taking what you have and making something out of it. Again, I think this is an area that Capricorn excels in, because you're I think Capricorn is very resourceful. For one, being an earth sign and being just naturally attuned to matter, and also just this Saturn is very, there's a simplicity in Saturn, not wanting waste, not wanting, excess. So I could see you, what they used to call it, making do, making do with what you have, and maybe turning it into something that you can call your own. The higher message is the Knight of Swords. I got this, I feel like I got this for Cancer. I wonder if I got the Magician as a central card too. But I remember getting this for a sign, another sign in this position. And what I was saying to that sign is, with the Knight, I think it was for Leo actually. But what I was saying is, the Knight of Swords is about speaking out, speaking your truth. So, if, for instance, the Queen of Swords is, excuse me, a supervisor who is not all that warm and fuzzy and is kind of like, yeah, I would say on the cold side and just treating you, maybe not mistreating you, but you don't feel like the sense of affection with this person. And even in relationships, if there's somebody like this in your life, I was even wondering if Libra was involved for some reason. I don't know. I thought there was another card that suggested that. But in any case, it may be that you also have been afraid to speak out for some reason, and that you have to let the chips fall where they may. And that this has been a potential dynamic in your situation which has exacerbated the issue. So, for instance, if you are working for somebody else and maybe a new supervisor came on the scene and was micromanaging you, but you just kind of let it go. Perhaps you were hoping that everything was going to just magically get better. The Magician card is about having that sense of self where you're not afraid to speak out. A lot of times people are afraid to speak out because they're afraid that the other party is going to, somehow penalize them when it comes to work matters. Like they're going to, they're gonna have some kind of a punishment as a result of, taking a stand on something. The Knight of Swords kind of tells it like it is, and it's possible that you haven't been doing this, and yet now you feel this sense of needing to be more autonomous. If you've been micromanaged for any reason, this could even be like for younger people especially. If you have an issue with your mother and maybe she's been critical and you're at this place of like feeling like you either can't be there altogether or that you have to tell her the truth about how what she's doing is making you feel, because due to what has been happening in our greater society, and college students, for instance, have been coming home early, and that has created a whole, other set of issues because the parents weren't expecting them to come home early, and the young people weren't expecting to come home early, and that can create a clash. And sometimes when people are trying to cope with that, like a parent, they get back into that authoritarian or micromanaging, controlling type of vibe. And because you've already left home, you feel autonomous, but you still feel like you're dependent on your parents because maybe you're not making money or making enough to be able to live on your own. So it's like this netherworld, if you will. So there could be all kinds of different things going on, but definitely as the spiritual message, it seems to be suggesting that you have to speak up, and you can't be fearless about it. I mean, you have to be fearless. The Knight of Swords combines the fire and the air element. That the air element is what swords represents, and it's about communication. The fire is very independent. Actually, the Magician card connects to a fire sign. It connects to Aries. And it's no wonder that it's number one. It's numbered one in the deck because Aries is the first house. But this is just something I recently learned. I did not know it was connected to Aries. Makes sense in retrospect. What crosses you is the Nine of Wands. And this is a card of perhaps being very guarded and therefore not being very spontaneous. Perhaps you're afraid of this kind of, if you're experiencing control in from somebody in your work life or your personal life, this can kind of wreak havoc on your sense of spontaneity. You may feel like you have to be like, you know, the sentinel guarding the gates. That's kind of what I see with this card. And it can wreck the flow, you know, and the truth is that there's not really anything to protect. You know, the only time when people really are trying to protect something is if they have that ego, or if they have that sense of, yeah, usually it's the pride that they feel like they have to defend. And so there's that defensiveness. But in truth, it's the more that you know yourself, the less you feel the need to be so protective, self-protective. But this could be someone kind of like coming into the picture in a very unexpected way, and you're kind of left a little bit blindsided. So if you have declared your independence and maybe have even made some kind of arrangement so that you are in a physical space that is more independent, whether it's for your work life or your private life, don't be surprised if the person that you're trying to, you know, separate yourself from, become free of, comes back into your life or really puts on the hard sell. Because you may assume that they don't care, but they do care because they need that control. So don't get carried away and think, oh wow, this person really cares. They're wooing me again, just like when I first met them. Be very aware of what they may be up to, because there might be something else going on. And by the way, another retrograde we're having is a Venus retrograde. So somebody from your past may be coming into the picture too. So maybe right when you've gotten independent, you have to deal with that person. What's coming in is the Queen of Wands. This is a card that is connected to Sagittarius. I connect it to Leo. But it's definitely a card of that kind of like a career woman vibe. So, but you know, in a more generalized sense, it's a card of like confidence and that feeling of, you know, being very, I was getting distracted because I'm hearing noises outside. I'm wondering who that is. But the Queen of Wands to me is somebody who is very confident about their abilities, but they're also, it's kind of a leadership role, but there's also that sense of it's not like the tyrant, the petty tyrant who's lording over their power with their underlings, if you will. It's somebody who is trying to be, I think, more of a inspiration to others. And I think that's why she's holding the sunflower, because she's trying to boost others up. So if you're, especially if you're trying to do something in the area of personal development, or, you know, like life coaching and things like that, that could indicate that you are, maybe this is a personal service that you're offering, and that it's very positive, but you may just be feeling these feelings yourself. And the outcome card is the Two of Wands. This is about a decision that you have to make, whether you're going to stay or relocate. It's possible. Let me pick an additional card, just because that's kind of a, I just cut the cards in half and I picked the first one. Okay, so I have the Emperor in the reverse position. What I would say is that it's funny. I always think of the Emperor as Capricorn, but it's supposed to be Aries. So here we have the first card associated with Aries, two of these major arcana cards associated with Aries, and then we have this in the reversed position. And this may be like you relinquishing control. You know, I do think that sometimes Capricorns can get quite what I would call controlling and micromanaging themselves, because they tend to want certain outcomes. You know, the cardinal signs are very self-motivated, but that self-motivation means that they want to control the outcome. And you may realize that you have to just let go of that need to know what's going to happen and to control it, because the Two of Wands may, mean that there's a fork in the road. Yogi Berra said, if you see a fork in the road, take it. And that sometimes is, it's an interesting, some of his quotes actually contained wisdom, even though they seemed kind of like contradictory. Because really, sometimes people think that they can only have one thing. It's either this, it's either or. And maybe it's not. Maybe you can have both things, perhaps not in the same way that you expected it. So, for instance, if you are saying, I really don't like my job, I feel like I'm being controlled by somebody, okay, maybe you should start your own business. But that doesn't mean that you quit your current job. Maybe you can do both. Maybe you can start your own business and see it grow, and then that will make your day job more tolerable, because you know that you're preparing for the future. You're not just kind of sitting there feeling like a total victim. Now, obviously, if you feel like really, really oppressed in the workplace, and that's not necessarily the best situation to just tolerate it one more day. There might be some cases where the best thing would be to just leave, but it all depends on other factors. So in any case, perhaps this makes sense to some of you, but in any case, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Most of my readings are astrology based, and you can find me at rainandmoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.